after our last commission meeting. But thank you for being here. Welcome everyone to the March 9th NSA Ad Hoc meeting. And it's myself and Ricardo Garcia Costin, our Chief of Staff. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. One moment.
Commissioner, not Commissioner, Executive Director Lawson is having difficulty getting in, so give me a second. I'm going to help him get in.
Okay. All right. First thing we're going to talk about is the timeline. And as we discussed last time, we're going to review the template at this Thursday's general meeting, March 12th. And then the goal is to ideally, depending on what the feedback is from the rest of the commission, to vote on finalizing the template on March 26th, and also to review draft MOU recommendations during the March 26th meeting, and then to vote on the MOU recommendations ideally at our first meeting in April 9th. So that's the timeline. Any questions about the timeline? Ricardo, do you have any feedback on that? Does that work for you? What do you think?
Yeah, a couple things. One, do we know the timeline for the city when they're entering these negotiations? I'm wondering just kind of what the timing is around that, because I think that's priority for us to be able to get these recs to the city and spend some time to making sure that we're laser focused on what those actually are. So I don't know if you've heard or know like what the timing is going to be with that.
No, great question. So the last time we discussed it was at a commission meeting uh, actually about around a year ago, I believe. It was in March time frame when I brought it up to the previous chief. And I believe that they had already, well, he said that they had either already started negotiations or were going to start negotiations sometime soon, but no later than the end of the year. So I believe they're in negotiations. We are going to talk about the MOU briefly, but I'll share and something else on my screen. I have the MOU also up here, and it expires on June 30th, 2026. So I agree with you that it's very important that we get any recommendations we have in as soon as possible. But I'm not sure we can get them in any sooner than the first meeting in April.
Okay.
We could try to get them in at the second meeting in March, but this needs to we need to go through this MOU. There are It's not too many articles, but we still need to have time to go through it. I've gone through it, but everyone else needs the time to go through it. And yeah, so that's why I was saying April 9th. So
Okay. Yeah, because part of my thinking is there may be, in terms of timing, it may be more pressing to get that to the city sooner than later.
it is
Um,
more pressing. I agree.
and
Yeah.
and because also in regards to the timing now, and it kind of relates to the timing for the template as well, is I really I want to make sure that we're doing and being thoughtful around this template, which we're having great conversations. We're producing a lot of good stuff, but I think there's still some significant steps that we're going to have to take before we actually move it forward. And in turn, honestly, like I really think that if we track towards getting the template and OPD, getting the commissioners to vote on it, and then and even then, I got a question about that process too. But essentially, getting commissioners' feedback on it, and then having a conversation with OPD and negotiating what that and solidifying what that template's going to look like moving forward. I would love to have that, at least one of those run throughs with the new template done before we go back for the next CMC at the end of May. So I think we have some time. I don't think we need to rush voting on it. And so I'm open to hear other folks' feedback. And also, just in terms of a point of process, I do think, and I don't know, Chief of Staff, who else is planning on joining us tonight, if anybody else RSVP'd or said that they're not going to join us. But I do think that it's fair for us to, um, one, if there's, members of the public that are attending and on the call, I think we do need to be very mindful of time and try to get going as soon as possible. But for the sake of getting everybody's input, if there's nobody on the call, I don't mind giving folks like a minute or two to join so that we don't have to repeat all of this all over again as well.
Yeah. Well, I think
Sarah Booker just joined, and Executive Director Antonio Lawson is on his way. Oh, he said his Wi-Fi is down, so he's trying to get on. But I think
Okay, so maybe we could just
think
start without him then.
IG is out of
Malik
town, I
will not
believe.
be here, so we
Yeah.
can go ahead and jump into the template. Thank you for your feedback. I think things would move much faster if everyone had stuck to the dates that we had agreed upon and provided input to the template around 2 weeks ago. That would have been helpful. And people from the public have come to these meetings in the past and provided input, and they're welcome to provide input at any point that they would like to. So with that, let's go over the template. We all agreed, the commission has agreed, in principle, on having the different sections that we have laid out in the template right here. A constitutional policing section. That's how it starts. Why is that? Oh, come on. Sorry, my computer. There we go. Constitutional policing section. All the different sections. But everything that you see that's in the template, sorry, my computer is a little bit slow, but all the different things that you see in the template are things that are squarely within our purview. Many of them also align with strategic plan objectives that we all voted on as a group. And, just like the current template is done, not everything is reported out on every time. So this is a way for us to stay informed upon the things that are most important to us, or most within our purview. So are there any particular sections that people have questions about? Vice Chair Booker or Ricardo Garcia Costa, anyone?
Well, I think just to start off, I think some of the feedback I had from last time was, and what I'm still hoping to do because of, and thank you, Chief of Staff, for actually bringing that up earlier, because I was actually wondering about, just the process and how we're going to move forward to implementing this new template. But really, I mean, my at first glance from a couple meetings back, I was concerned that we're significantly deviating from the original template. And I thought the exercise was to look at the template, identify things that were duplicative, things that were not relevant to be speaking of, that were just consistently being glossed over because nobody cared about them or they just weren't relevant, right? Whatever that was, to be able to identify that and to be able to refine the existing template rather than developing a new reporting, completely new reporting format in which OPD is going to have to, and even then, the way it's, I guess what I'm still struggling to wrap my mind around is the way it's currently formatted is moving more towards a qualitative narrative type of report rather than a quantitative report, which they're used to doing, right? With there's actual numbers and there's things that they update every 2 weeks. And so I'm trying to think about how we could take, and I think a lot of this information that we're talking about is important, and we need to identify how, if we were to overlay these new areas that we really want to hear from, we think are important, and how that would fit into the current template, and how we would imagine them in updating that every 2 weeks. Because short of having them respond to all these areas, which if I was OPD and I had this report, and I'm thinking, I would be thinking well, I have to provide a mini paragraph narrative for each of these sections, which is different than the way the reporting was laid out in the first place. And I think that's going to be a hard sell for me to be able to sit down with the chief and have them commit to. So, right. So I think what we should do is look at these areas and see where they fit into the current template, because the way the current template is structured is something that OPD is already used to being in a cadence of reporting back on. And how do we infuse these areas and this information into the current template and eliminate things that aren't a priority anymore?
Okay, thank you for a feedback. But um, yeah, we did, or I did, because I provided all this input. In addition to Director Lawson provided input for one section. Those are the only two people that have provided input are myself and Director Lawson. And IG Malouf gave a little bit of input before he went on vacation for this month. So this is the first time hearing back from yourself on this topic. But yeah, that is one of the things that we discussed was eliminating duplicative or areas within the template that don't need to be that aren't necessarily within our purview and aren't really things that need to be reported out on. And I did assign people to different sections of the template to provide feedback and help flesh them out. But like I said, only myself and Director Lawson provided input to it. So the areas that are here, some of them do involve numbers and statistics, and some of them are information that OPD has reported out on. So I don't know exactly. It's hard for me to when you don't say exactly which sections you're referring to. That would be helpful rather than just saying in general, as if the whole thing is like not accurate. Like which section are you referring to? Which specific items?
Well, and I think I might have mentioned this before. So, and forgive me, I'm not, with my time capacity, I really do not have the capacity to provide individual feedback on a lot of these things. And so my commitment is to show up to these meetings and provide high level feedback on the direction of which it's going and where we need to go and how it's landing altogether. And I think the totality of it, as I continue to say, is that, and I believe I gave this feedback last time, was that it's significantly deviating from the original template. And I think we need to look at these areas and basically juxtapose it on the other one, overlay it, and figure out how can we infuse these areas into the current template and then eliminate areas that are no longer of use to us.
Yeah.
Using the format of the current template that we have now, rather than creating a new reporting format
Okay. Well,
entirely.
I still am unsure exactly which sections you're referring to,
The whole thing.
and honestly, you did agree to provide feedback by a specific date, and everybody
That is my only feedback, and it
hold on,
remains the same.
Ricardo. Everybody of an ad hoc, regardless of what their role is, all has the same responsibilities of the ad hoc to provide feedback and to participate. But thank you for letting me know your intentions going forward. Vice Chair Booker, do you have any input on this?
Do I have any additional input? I mean, I think the feedback that I had gave was captured. I didn't know, I didn't understand that the style was being changed, if that sounds like what we're talking about now. I thought we were kind of I from my understanding, the intentionality was to condense, to not overlap, and also to just streamline and make things make sense, to also help when we have the annual report to already have a purview to some of the information, not to necessarily add more tasks and responsibility, but to actually make things easier over time for us and the requirements of OPD. So I mean, I'm happy for the if what I understand is being said here, which I didn't understand what was happening, is the template looks different and we want it to look similar. I don't think that changes the goal of what we were doing, which is to take out stuff that doesn't actually serve us or our role or any other things, and then ask for things that relate to understanding the updates of policies when policies are happening, things related to their report out on tasks if they want to share any other things that, yeah, that's related to our responsibility to overview. So I don't have anything to add, but I'm not actually clear what the what is happening right now, what the tension is. I know you did, Commissioner Farmer, ask for more feedback, but I didn't have more feedback to give because you capture minds in the meeting.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I need. I mean, this isn't,
Well,
me to provide. Hold on, Ricardo. This isn't, the intention of the ad hoc isn't for me to provide something and for everyone else just to look at it and say, well, I agree with this or not, or go do something else than what you provided. That's why the document is provided to everyone in advance so that they can provide input and work as a team, not just put on one person or two people to do the whole document. And that's why this is put out like, weeks in advance to let people know exactly where we're going with this. Now, the information that's provided here could still be put into like looking like uh, the um, the Excel spreadsheet like template that we have right now. All I'm saying, or all I was proposing, was that we ask for this information, and not necessarily every time. The chair, I guess, could speak with the chief uh, about what information they can provide when, just like we wouldn't ask about updates to every policy that the commission has ever worked on with OPD at every meeting, you know?
Right. So what's that question right now? I think I'm not tracking what is
Well,
happening right
we were
now.
just going over, uh, we were trying to review. What I wanted to do was, but Ricardo has to leave by 6:30, is to review the template as it's been proposed, like what's in the agenda, and to at least get feedback now. There still are two sections that haven't been fleshed out, which is policy and I forget the other section, but
So, okay, so it's two parts because I didn't think we were like I thought the first part and when you said giving feedback, which again, I think you are correct. I thought we're still in the stage of what information to be collected, not necessarily the look or the format of it.
we
So
are.
what,
That's right. That's we are.
okay.
Yeah, and
And
that
so right
yes.
now we're making sure we agree on whatever these items are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that we all
that's
agree
just
like.
one section. Yeah, it's the same sections that we've talked about for the past month or so.
Yeah, and we, on our last meeting, you had highlighted. I was like, we could delete this section, we could delete this, we could delete
Right.
that. Like that stuff was in there. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And then it's just like you described. We're just going over how those different sections are going to be fleshed out. And so you have this first section, and I'll get to you, Ricardo, before you have to go. Let me go through this real quick. We have
Well,
a
I'm buying some time right now too because I know we started late, so I'm just gonna be multitasking at a certain point.
okay. So we have the constitutional policing section. I also tried to align this with our strategic plan federal oversight section. That's another reason why we're having some of the things in here. I put in this constitutional policing, the purpose of the section, and the purpose of the NSA, because a lot of this information is information from that's been gathered from the NSA, basically. So you have your task 25 and 45 updates, which is already in the template. And as I think Ricardo has pointed out in the past, we're trying to figure out exactly what, for example, the qualitative study, like what subtask that applies to, which task and which subtask. And so like that's in here as something, a corrective action to help get task 45 into compliance. And I'm just putting that here as a question mark because there's like 6 subtasks of 45. Anyways, and then you have, those are the first 3 areas of section 1. And then section 4 talks about the IG gave all the feedback about this, about the stuff that, they're going to be auditing. Which has to do with internal affairs bureau tasks within the NSA. And those tasks are 4, 7, 8, 9, 11, 13, and 34. And so I just put 2 things to ask, basically, whatever information they want to provide. The IG specifically said that he wanted us to ask about this stuff. So I asked, the 2 things I propose are subtask status and corrective actions to get those subtasks into compliance if needed or not. And then you have internal collaboration. This also has to do with constitutional policing. And that's just talking about the different meetings that are going on, all the different efforts to get us into compliance. So I talked about the internal monitoring team, the visit, the last visit, the next visit, any police commissioner that went like our chair, any feedback they have. Same thing with the NSA core working group. Same thing with the CMC, the last CMC, upcoming CMC, the IAB to CPRA working group. That's something that we voted on and agreed that a commissioner would be a part of that. And then any other commission and OPD meetings that may take place. Feedback from the commission and OPD. This also aligns with our strategic plan internal operations objectives. And then I just put some other information in here that also aligns with this constitutional policing section. OPD and commission feedback from attendance at an academy or in-service training function is something specific to this area of the NSA. And this is something that we could do and still falls under our purview. I got the inspiration to put this here from when Ricardo said how he had attended like some lineups and talked to them. This is also something that maybe he would want to do, or a vice chair or somebody else would want to do, and would also accomplish like getting in just a brief update, not like an audit of an NSA task, but an update on like where they're at with this stuff that they, that's already happening. And then same thing with this field training function, commission and OPD attending like a firearms discharge board of review. This is also something else that can happen. And attending a use of force review board. This is also something that used to happen in the past. I believe commissioners have done this in the past, and a chief like 2 or 3 chiefs ago said that she was really in support of this, thought that it was a progressive way to include the commission into like the OPD things that they have going on. So these are ideas for us how to get more involved while also getting information about NSA things that are already going on. And then the next section is community policing. And so I asked specifically, this also lines up with strategic plan, federal oversight section. I say which objectives it lines up with. And then, so I talked about, let's see, this is straight out of the charter, which talks about us helping build trust with OPD in the community through doing work or having meetings with faith-based groups, with youth groups, and frequently policed communities. So that's why these first 3 sections of community policing involve those 3 groups. The first section is faith-based groups. The second one is frequently policed communities. The third one is youth groups, and the fourth one is formerly incarcerated groups, because that's also encouraged. Collaboration with the commission, and then I put the attending the lineups thing here that Ricardo does, which I think is great. Interfacing with the academy. I know that a couple of chairs ago, she used to go to the academy and like give a speech or something. Let's see. And then also share feedback on positive statistics regarding community policing, problem-solving activities. This is something specifically called out in one of the NSA tasks in the community policing section of the NSA. And that's what the end of these other section 1 of 2 is talking about, stuff that's specifically called out in the NSA that I believe that they're doing. Maybe, I don't know the extent. I mean, it's definitely worth asking. And this isn't something that they would have to report out on every meeting. It says, like, for example, this first one, OPD meets within 60 days unless not feasible with reps of organizations in Oakland if that organization communicates a concern regarding police personnel or practices. That may or may not happen. There's a lot of different groups, but I think this question is worth asking. And then it's also calls out in the community policing section of the NSA that patrol supervisors or officers assigned to the 35 different beats that we have, I figured that at least one patrol supervisor for all those different beats is at minimum attending one community meeting per quarter, per quarter of the year that they're assigned to. That also is a specific NSA task, 47.2, the subtask. So it's very realistic that they're doing this stuff. These tasks are in compliance. I know that we talked about these community policing tasks back when I was on or actively on the community policing ad hoc committee. So I don't think it would be an issue for them just to talk about it. They already talk about meetings that they're having with the community, but why not go more specific to framing those discussions about what it says in the NSA? And then the next section is use of force and reporting procedures. So we were unsure exactly about how to go about fleshing out this section initially, but then I went through the NSA and some other stuff that we do, like our strategic plan, and just put that stuff in here. Shawana.
Well, how does this sound to you so as we think about having some of this in a template, I don't know, like some of it, I'm not gonna lie, is starting to drown out a bit for me. Um, and I get what you are saying, like it's not every meeting. And I think some of this is of interest for sure, and it's a responsibility of this group. Some of it is a responsibility, like so the days that we have CIPRA report out, because they're not there every week, then we have certain NSA updates and report out. So if we have it in a template, we say it's a monthly report out, like once a month or something to have the NSA stuff, or how will we have structure around it? I mean, yeah.
Okay, thank you for the question. So what is drowning out for you? Can you be more specific?
Well, I guess it's just there's just a lot.
I could be specific. It's just a lot.
Hold on, Carl. I just want to hear what Shawana has to say about it specifically.
Yeah, it's just I mean, I guess what you're doing now is proving a point of relevance, and I don't think that's necessary right now because I do think it's part of our role and responsibility. So I'm not opposed to it. I just am trying to negotiate how much of it is a part of the conversation in our, regularly scheduled meeting
Yeah.
and what are we, looking for? Like I said, if we have IG only present out once and we have SIPR report out once, then maybe we have certain tasks on this that aligns, that really shows we're reporting out, we're in collaboration. Some of this might be in the weeds for the IG to get to and then report out in his report. And some of this may be necessary for us to follow up on based on the IG's report and the IG's work, and maybe not necessarily for us to try to get them to answer at the public meeting with us, but to report out on maybe it's articulated better that, hey, you've guys been auditing and working really closely with IG, report out on the task and what's happening so that it's not like this for, there's a certain type of way you think about these things that can get drowned out or really into the weeds and stuff. And how do we elevate it to make it relevant to say, hey, we're doing this, we're doing that to, I don't know if that makes any sense, but just trying to figure out like public that has no knowledge. And then also if there's a concern that it's creating more things, but it doesn't feel clear on how we want to get the information, maybe we align it like that.
Okay, Ricardo?
So I think for me, it's about streamlining the most important information that we need to hear from a commission and the progress that they're making towards either achieving NSA compliance or how they're implementing constitutional policing. And kind of just going back to that, especially, if we identify that at kind of like at the top as the overarching goals, right, of the document. I'm assuming like the constitutional policing piece would be like a ongoing section of this, right? And I do think that it would probably be a good exercise for us to look at this document and go through it together during these meetings and start. And even if we don't get through the whole thing at one time, and if we can't get through the whole thing in an hour, then that already tells us that this is an hour plus report back, right? Which is entirely too long. And people is going to start drowning things out, right? And I don't want things to get lost. And I think maybe what we should do is go through all of this information, because I think there's a lot of valuable information that we have now collected, and thank you, Commissioner Farmer. Like, this is a lot of work that has now been synthesized and put together in one place, right, for us to look at. And I think for our next steps, I'd offer that we go through this and ask ourselves, is this already reflective in the current template? If so, where, and where do we need to kind of refine it and put that in there? And then if not, or is there, to Vice Chair's point right now, or are there more appropriate places for some of these things to be discussed, right? So that we could kind of reduce the level of information and the amount of information that they're reporting back on, and really focus on the things that mean the most to us. And then I also think that if there's information that's not going to change from week to week, from meeting to meeting, right, within a 2-week period, and we're more likely to see changes within on a monthly period, maybe we break up the template as like every second Thursday, we cover these topics. Every fourth Thursday, we cover these set of topics. And then those then will change from month to month rather than from meeting to meeting. And it kind of just gives more time for OPD to report out and update certain either numbers or progress that's being made in these particular areas. But I do think...
I agree that it doesn't all need to be reported out every time. I agree with what you said about some different frequency for some of this stuff. And I agree that if it takes at least an hour to get through this whole thing, then it's not designed for everything to go over every time. I'm just putting out as many ideas as possible, and then we can figure out how to prioritize what we think is the most important. So,
I mean, that makes sense to me, but I also think that I guess I'm not clear why we're still on this section.
We're on the third section. We cut it down from, it currently is 15 sections, y'all. It's 15 sections. And if we went through every area of every section that's currently on there, it would be longer. It would be much longer than an hour report out. And currently we have it at, I think it's at 7 sec. Let me see. Scroll to the bottom.
No, not that. That wasn't what I was gonna say. Like, I'm happy with that. I guess I'm still a little, I think that is good. So right now we're on section 3,
We're on,
and we're talking about the task. Or
yes,
no, you were just kind of talking about how it's relevant to the task, right?
That's a good point. Why are we still talking about tasks and we're not on the constitutional pleasing section?
Yes.
Because it is something that still applies to the title of this section and is within our purview. That's why.
So as an exercise, what I'm saying, and I don't know if it's making sense, but I think we need to look at our current template and then go through that and then just go through the exercise. And that says, do we still need this section and all of these things that are listed and basically have these documents side by side and be able to say, okay, section 1 that talks about, I don't even have the current template pulled up. And that's what I'm saying. Like, it's hard for me to look at this whole new document without even cross-referencing it with the current template that we have. And I'd like to, at some point, go through each of these documents and ask ourselves, okay, let's look at our current template. Let's look at section 1. Where does all the things that we're listing out here fit into section 1? And then go like that, one by one section, and then see if we're missing or if we need to eliminate things. And then, or refine those sections based off of what we're listing out here as our priorities. I could already tell you right now, like some of these things around,
like what?
Some of the things around even IG and CPRA, I thought we talked about leaving those for their own reports and not have OPD reporting back on.
You're right. We did say that. We got rid of those sections. And then the IG, before he went on vacation, he said that his input was that he really wanted them to report out to us on just where they're at with the tasks that they're auditing. So it may be a short report out. It may be, I don't know, whatever information that they have. But he really pushed to keep that included. So I put it in the constitutional policing section. That's your only
Oh,
request.
and I might have missed that because I thought we talked about him including that in his report. And if
Yeah,
there's certain things that are red flags for us, then OPD would be there for us to be able to ask them questions in regard to his report.
you're
I don't
right.
think if
You're
we
right.
get into them reporting and then him reporting, then we're getting into like a he said, she said thing. And then, things may or may not line up. Right.
Yeah.
Um,
No, you're right. He is going to do that. You're correct. He's going to do that during his report out. And that was what I said to him. And he said that he still wanted to really include getting information about what was being audited in relation to the task that he's auditing. So I would, you know, amicable to agree to remove that stuff if we think it's necessary. That's something definitely that we could potentially do.
well, I think we have to provide a recommendation and we have to either try to hash it out here and provide a recommendation for the rest of the commission to either, to vote and weigh on as well. So
Wait,
that there's
say the last part again. Sorry.
that, for each of these things, I think we need to, negotiate that, have discussions around that, and then provide what the ad hoc's recommendation is to the rest of the commission for them to weigh in as well when ultimately they vote on it. Yeah.
So are you of the feeling that the IG stuff in the constitutional policing section should not be included? I was just trying to be respectful of his feedback.
Well, I think now that we got all this information on paper and that it's public now, that we should continue going through this line by line and then asking ourselves, like, is this currently reflective in our current template? Do we need to insert it? Or is it more appropriate in other places to be reported back on?
Okay, so I hear you there. Other places. So the other places stuff, the only place that I can think of stuff that's here on this proposed template and could be proposed or discussed in other places would be that IG feedback section of the constitutional policing section, and some of this stuff that's in the discipline section that basically was written by Director Lawson, and I added like a couple of things. Those are the two sections that I think that information. I don't know. I'd have to ask Director Lawson about specifics about that discipline section, but that's my feeling is that those two sections could be included potentially solely within their monthly readout, if that answers your question.
Yeah.
Okay. And then in terms of, Director Lawson's here. Um, thank you for joining us. All right. And then, okay, so, okay, Tony, just go. You got your hand up. I'm going to go to the discipline section. And then before we get to that, before Tony, you're still muted. Before we get to that, this I just want to quickly say about this use of force section because I know that Ricardo doesn't have a lot of time necessarily here.
I'm good. I'm multitasking now. I just got my eye on another meeting right now.
Okay, cool. All right, the stuff in this section, we originally said that we were going to also talk to OPD about what they could report about and use of force and stuff. But I thought that I would take it upon myself to also go through the NSA and see what they were already doing so that it wasn't duplicative or something, and they could just pull up this information about stuff they were already doing. Some of this stuff that we've talked about in meetings here or general meetings. And then mental health and wellness, this is pretty straightforward. Shawan, seeing this stuff. And then we have the discipline section. And then the sections that aren't fleshed out, which are this policy review section is a big part of this. On the budget, we need to get to that too. All right, with that, Director Lawson, do you want to weigh in on the discipline section or anything you want to?
Actually, could you go back up to go to section 3 again?
Okay.
Yeah. See, I think it's good we identify all this stuff. And I think as the chair mentioned, I think we got to sit down and go through this comparatively with everything we already have and figure, because some of this here is, I mean, there's some items here that I participated in other meetings where we get this information, but it will be difficult for us to go through, to have all this information at regular commission. For example, review reports of OPD members who use force. That could be a ton of, cases right there. Just everybody who uses force, and that's 3A. Likewise, discuss instances where a supervisor responded to the scene upon notification of use of force. That's going to be likely every use of force allegation we may have, right? So being able to report out every month on these issues would take quite a bit to gather this evidence and report it out. I think some of these issues also we need to talk to city attorney's office and to your counsel about POBAR, the impact that this may have, that POBAR may have on disclosure of some of this information. Some of this information is accumulated and discussed as part of the NSA, but not in a public forum. So I don't know if all of this can be publicly discussed, and we need to talk to the city attorney about, the limitations that POBAR presents in presenting some of this. For example, report out on any uses of force, citizen complaints, or other member employee involved actions in which there is an apparent evidence of criminal misconduct. I mean, arguably, what is an apparent evidence of criminal misconduct? When there's a case that's potential criminal misconduct, it's investigated by CID, right? And often the DA. And the statute for our discipline review is told during this period. But I don't think you can report out on those issues when there hasn't been a determination that this was criminal conduct or that they're going to be pursuing criminal conduct against this particular employee. So I think we got to be cognizant of what limitations POBAR places on disclosing some of this information.
Yeah. No, I hear you. And I didn't think that all this information would be able to be reported out. I figured there'd be some sort of confidentiality thing, but I wanted to get feedback like this from you and the IG on what could be reported out, since we wanted to have a use of force section. So this is helpful. Your feedback is helpful. I agree. And maybe, some of this stuff gets changed, but I wanted to make sure that we at least had, like I said, stuff within our purview that also accomplished other things. Is that all you have to add, or what else?
Just one last thing on section 4, vehicle stops, summarize monthly basic reports received regarding, you just went up on me, regarding vehicle field stop. We get, I think it's either quarterly, I think quarterly. I think there's a report on field stops that's presented to us as part of risk management. And so that's one of the issues that it is kind of accumulated already by OPD, but whether you can report out, I'm not sure. But what I'm saying is to the extent that some of this information is information we seek, it's not something I think OPD can report out every month, every 2. I mean, a lot of this stuff is like quarterly basis. This
is why I need everyone to give feedback and leave comments on the template. So I didn't expect that this is going to be the final thing, but this is still information, like important information that we should or could gather. And if it's being collected somewhere else, it's at least good to identify where that's being collected at. So your specific feedback is on section 4A, or no, section 4 altogether, right?
Well, broadly, no, well, 3 and 4 and 2. I mean, broadly, we got to figure out what it is information can be reported out, right? I think we got to identify, as the chair said, prioritize what's important and comparatively look at what we currently get, right? Yeah. And then also determine, is this feasible that this information can be presented?
Okay. I know that they have provided input on vehicle stops that the Spark team at Stanford has done. I know because I've read that stuff publicly in the past. I know people have asked questions about that, and that also has to do with racial profiling. So that's why that stuff is in here. But thank you for giving me specific feedback on specific sections. So regarding these sections, if you can just leave a comment in this document later,
I will.
Yeah, that would be really helpful. Okay. What about the officer-involved shootings? That's not happening very often, so I wouldn't think we might not hear about more than one officer-involved shooting a year. these days. It was a lot more
Uh,
years ago, but
yeah, we've had two in the last 6 months, but they were what we'll call negligent discharges, meaning,
okay, so negligent discharges or an officer involved shooting. It involved like
yeah,
suspects.
yes, but it's questionable whether it was an attempt to shoot someone or it was just
Right.
an accidental discharge. I mean, so they have to be investigated. So, you
Well,
have to
that's
understand
a
what do we
problem.
consider an officer involved shooting?
Yeah, right.
Is there any discharge of a weapon? If there is, there's been about two or three
And
of them
and to
in the
that point,
past
Director
year.
Lawson, would you say that at some point during your monthly reports, at some point throughout the year, when you're comfortable, when you have most information about it, this is the type of information that would come up in one of your reports at some point of the year
I
for
would
us to know,
say
and eventually your annual report.
it should, yeah. We can make that because we would get information of all officers of all shooting. We have a mandate kind of um, to look at those, so we could report out on that. And we would probably do it. I don't think you need it monthly. I don't know if you need it maybe quarterly at most. It's not that
Yeah.
many.
No,
And I
this
think
was
when
what
we think of
happened.
I think when we think about the template, and I guess I'll take another pass at it too, it's just um for me, having a working group is always more efficient and better. So to go outside, I'll just be honest with my capacity. To go outside and do stuff, I'm always bumping stuff. And I know that's part of my role here. And then there's stuff on the commission that I end up getting bumped. So the more we can make this the actual working time and not have to do another task outside of this would be most appreciated. But I do apologize in ways that I do fall short on that. But I will add that in my mind, what would be most helpful is like considering like keeping when we have these public meetings, they want to know what's going on. So like whatever information um like that could be helpful, that we could be in a loop of, so we could be a supportive arm, and that we can make sure they're staying, in the constitutional policing. And it doesn't have to go into all of the weeds of everything in the template because we have other opportunities for that. And I don't always know. And so maybe I don't know if we could have, Director Lawson, you have the most insight about things that could be shared or not shared.
So why don't I'm sorry, I
Go
mean to
ahead.
cut you off.
Sorry. No, no, please.
Why don't I go through this also with my counsel, but she's out for another week and make comments, right? And kind of maybe in a sense try to identify or prioritize what information I think may be most important, and then we go through it again one by one during these meetings.
Yeah, I think that would be super helpful, Director Lawson. And then I think, I agree, and respectfully to everybody. Like, I absolutely don't have time to work outside of this ad hoc. Like, already devoting an hour for this work is on top of the other, hours that I'm devoting to other work throughout the week for the commission. So, one of the things that, again, I'm going to say again is I think that one I think we need to speak the same language too. And is the document we're looking at right now the new template, or is this information that we've been discussing and gathering to be able to revise the current template, right? And so that's the part that still confuses me because, again, I think we should look at the current template and all this great information that we've been able to gather during these discussions and get with everybody's input and be able to determine, okay, what areas in the current template do these things fit in? Do we need to create new areas? Do we need to eliminate areas? And then from there, also determine what things we could publicly talk about and not, right? But I do think that if we use this hour to go through it and have a working group so that we could go through it, even if it takes 3-4 meetings to get through the whole current template and cross-reference all of this information to make sure all the things that we're covering are in that template, or maybe we identify that they get reported out in other areas, then at that point, we're using this time to be able to like actually go through it and give our feedback through this time. Because again, respectfully, I'm going to have very limited time to be able to provide information between these meetings. And so it would be helpful to be able to do that. Similar to, um, we have our, we have the discipline matrix ad hoc and the MOR, when we're looking at the MORs, right? And, we basically sit there and go through it every meeting and actually work and have a working group and just go line by line, one by one. And it's tedious and it takes a long time, but there's no expectation outside of that ad hoc for folks to be able to provide input and work on documents in between those times. So I think it's just being respectful and of people's limitation as well.
I totally hear you. Thank you for bringing that up. I know that's something that I proposed in the past, going through this line by line at a meeting, and we've tried to do that a couple of times. And then I believe yourself and other folks said that it was easier to provide feedback outside the meeting. So I don't want to just waste time going back and forth. I mean, this is my feedback for these sections. If people want to provide additional feedback, I mean, please do. I mean, or you can, I don't know, I mean, waiting for the meeting, then it's going to take forever to get this template done since we're not meeting every week now. So it's going to be challenging if we're going to go back and forth instead of doing stuff outside of the meetings. I know that when you had stated for us to not meet every week, that part of the agreement for doing that was that people would look at stuff outside the meeting. So I don't know.
I appreciate if there was mixed message on that. And I do want to say that I think after we get through all of our community meetings in March,
you're going to have to take time to go through the document. Not everyone's going to have time to go through it line by line individually every 2 weeks.
So I was going to also say, Commissioner, that I think after we get through the community meetings for the chief search in March, that, perhaps we do go back to every week in April. I had originally proposed that we do every other week, especially during March when things are just, we're doing things every week and chief of staff is really pulled in different directions. So I'm also open to entertain that as well too, but I know there's other ad hocs that need to take place too. And frankly, if things take 6 months, then guess what? Things take 6 months, and that's just the way it is. And we have to be okay with that. Yeah. I personally think that, like as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, if we could have this document and set a goal for us having a revised template by the time we go to our next CMC in late May, I think that would be good timing. That gives us, March, April, May, about 3 months to complete this task.
Okay. Can I make a recommendation?
All right. Thank you. One second. Oh, I just want to, because we've been talking about revising the template for, I think, around a year at this point. So bumping it all the way to May 27th is a really long time. I don't know why it would take so long to do that. I just don't understand. I mean, I thought that the big reason for stopping the every week meeting was for our chief of staff's ability to attend all these meetings. But historically, at ad hoc meetings, chief of staff wasn't required to attend the meeting. So I've been on like 5 ad hocs before I was on the police commission, and chief of staff never was required to attend the ad hoc meeting. So I think you could save a lot of time with not, I don't know, she wouldn't have to be here, save her time to work on something else. So that's just my feedback on that. But I mean, I don't know why we would bump this out all the way till May. I know that you don't have necessarily as much capacity, and that makes total sense. I understand a lot of obligations to serve the commission and stuff like that. But I mean, that just seems like a really long time. And I mean, we also have our CMC statement that needs to be written, and we're doing this and the MOU recommendations. I don't see why we just can't take the time to go through this. Maybe we do like a longer meeting. I mean, we just got good feedback from Director Lawson right now on these 3 areas of Section 3. So I don't know. It just seems like it's going to end up being like a really waste of your time and everyone's time if we're trying to delay this all the way out to May. I don't see how we're going to do that and the CMC statement. And really just need folks to go through it, man, and just leave your comments. I mean,
Well,
I really don't think it would take that long. If we're saying that it takes OPD maybe an hour to go through everything that's here, I don't see why it would take a commissioner longer than an hour to go through and leave your comments. And I respect that you say you may not necessarily have the capacity. Well, maybe we get someone else that's been on the NSA Ad Hoc before to also save you some time. Maybe that's helpful. If you want to do that, obviously, I mean, it's up to you. But I mean, maybe save yourself some time from having to do this stuff outside the meetings. What are your thoughts on that?
well, my suggestion was this, that we meet back again in 2 weeks. In the interim, my counsel will be back next week. I think she and I can look at this and hope pare it down to see at least some things that we could say, like, look, that can't be disclosed, whatever, possibly in open session, right? So that you're not wasting time on some things, or at least we can maybe help identify, prioritize what is based on what we receive and see regularly, what information is most important for the commission to receive. At least give some kind of feedback. The last few weeks have been really busy, so I haven't had time to look at this. But the next week, I have a fairly light schedule, so I can sit down with council and we just go through this and give you our comments on like
That
what we think
sounds
is most
helpful.
important.
And maybe we could do the same with ours too. That sounds helpful. But
Okay,
that sounds like it was streamlining.
but you're I think you muted yourself, Shawana. Were you done talking?
Yeah, I just said it sounds helpful, that idea, like it would streamline it a lot. Yeah.
Okay. But then Director Lawson, you're only talking about going over the use of force section and the discipline section, correct? Or are you talking about doing more?
Let me see. Keep going. Let me tell you. Use of force, discipline.
There's a community policing.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, y'all, to make it difficult, but I just think it's just not landing well with me because we're not looking at our current template. And I thought the task was to look at our current template and make revisions and additions to that. And we're coming up with a completely new document that's, I think, moving us farther away. That's complicating things of how that compares to our current template.
After that, what I was contemplating is looking at both of them
We
at
did
the
look
same
at
time, so
and
that then we're talking and prioritizing like what's important in both of them. If we're talking about making a new template, but I think you do have to look at the current template to look
we
at.
did look at the current template. We went over that like a couple of meetings into this year. We went over it, and that's how we decided to get rid of half of that. There are 15 sections. That's how we decided to get rid of all those other
But
sections.
you're saying this
Come up with,
aligns with
hold up,
that
come up,
template.
and come up with these other sections, and then we agreed to flesh out these sections with either with information from that template or additional information. And some of the information here is from that template, like task 25 and 45. Shawana?
Yeah, I was just saying, you're not saying that it can't align with that template. You're just fleshing it out in a different document.
I mean, I'm fleshing it out in a different document in a way that's easier to go through. And because we already looked at the other, that's all we had done up to this point, like for the past several months.
Right,
And
but I didn't get are you saying that cut all the stuff out, streamline it with this information, it could still be that template format minus the stuff we cut out, and clarifying these things on that. That's was I was
in terms of
anticipating.
like putting it into like the Excel spreadsheet look,
The format, yeah, that's
that same how it looks, yeah, like this stuff could be put. Yes, that was the intention, was just to get the information and then put it in the Excel format like it is now and take it from there. Does that answer your question?
yeah, because I was just trying to make sure, Chair, what he was saying, it feels like a total different document. And so that I'm just making sure I wasn't sure if that was your intention or not to create a whole different document. It still kind of fit in those categories of the current template, but minus a bunch of sections. We're not adding sections. We're just clarifying
We are.
what's
We did
what's
add, but we
what's
did add
relevant.
some sections. We added mental health and wellness, for example.
Right. I said a bunch of sections. We're not adding a bunch of sections. We removed some and then we're
We added
clarifying
this.
our
We
role.
added the discipline section, which kind of like modifies or condenses some of the information that's on the current template, but a lot of it is not.
Okay.
So
So
we
it
agreed on this.
sounds
So wait 1 second, then you can respond. So we agreed to not do certain sections in the template, and then we agreed on these new sections. But then some of the sections in the old template like didn't have a lot of information, or didn't have information that we necessarily uh, were within our purview to even ask. So that's why I was asking everyone to provide feedback on how you want these sections to look like going forward. And I'm just trying to prevent us from going back and forth, because we started off just trying to look at the current template in its current format.
I get it. I don't need a review. I gotta hop off, you guys. I got something I need to get to at 7:15 and it's 7:07. I'm so sorry. But I hear you, and it sounds like next steps are Director Lawson is gonna take a pass. You don't, Chair of this ad hoc, Commissioner Farmer, you don't want to delay until May. It sounds like Chair Garcia Costa, you just want to make sure kind of align with what I said, like as much as this could be a working group, we could get stuff done and we will follow back up on this. And it sounds like also Commissioner Farmer, you're still open to us taking a pass outside of this meeting.
Yeah, I mean, please leave. We all agreed to provide comments outside of the meeting. So please make comments on the document outside of the meeting. I'm just trying to make it work so that we can get all this done, like
Yeah.
the
And
NSA recommendations and the CMC statement.
yeah, for sure. And for me, I think my statement still remains the same. I don't have a lot of capacity outside of this, but I will attempt to when I can for sure. But I'm happy to have tasks in here that we actually get to. Um,
Okay.
okay,
Well, I thank you for saying that. And just before you go, I appreciate you saying that you don't have capacity. I don't have a lot of capacity either, but I put in as much effort that I could. This is my feedback for this document, and at this point, I just need everyone to provide feedback and to help flesh out those other two sections, or else this
great.
just becomes a document that myself and Director Lawson are doing.
Great. I will provide additional feedback after Director Lawson circles back after he talks to council. I will not access this document before then because if he removes a bunch of stuff, I do not want to waste my time.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Micah, is there any public comment?
There's no one in the audience.
Okay. Any other final thoughts from anyone? I'm not trying to be combative or anything here. I don't expect for everything that's on here to be on the final. I'm just trying to provide good options here, so that we can get this done in a timely manner. That's respectful of everyone's input and what's doable. Ricardo, do you have any final thoughts?
No, no, and definitely appreciate all the work that's going into it. And I just, for me, it's going to be helpful to be able to determine how and where all of these things in this current document right here fit into our current template, considering the things that we've already agreed that we want to remove from that current template
And
format.
when you say that, you mean how it's going to look? Like you want it to look the same way as the current like Excel spreadsheet?
Well, because I think we have a lot of good information here, and we need to start structuring it and start integrating it into the current template. I think the original task, again, my understanding was to make revisions or additions to the current template. So now that we have a full page of all this additional information, I think we need to go back to that original task of how we're revising or adding to the current template that they're currently reporting on. I don't think practically. I don't think that it's going to be a hard ask to get them to report a whole new type of report back to us. So that's why I was hoping to make it as easy as possible to be able to have the current template and be able to add additions or revisions based off of this conversation, all this important information that we have listed out, and including people's feedback when that comes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. The only thing that I would say to that is that if we try to put all this information into the current format rather than go through it and decide what needs to stay or not, then it's not necessarily going to look like what we expect it to look like. It might give us like a false impression of what it's going to look like. So, all right. But
I'm happy to help take a pass at that once Director Lawson gives his feedback.
okay. And Director Lawson, when did you say you're able to look at it with your
Next week when my counsel returns from vacation. So I won't talk to her until Monday, and then also we'll probably sit down probably Tuesday and Wednesday and try to go through it.
Okay.
So and then whatever we go through, I'll circulate it.
Okay. And mind you, we still need to get information for the other two sections, like the budget section and the policy section. Yeah, so we still need to do that. Was there anything that anyone else saw, like Director Lawson highlighted those specific sections in use of force that they did not like or that they did not think should be here? Ricardo, I think you pointed out the what's it called, the IAB task that IG is auditing. Is that re-highlighting that as that shouldn't be here?
I certainly think that there's things on here that are SIPR related and IG related that I thought we discussed that they could report out on their reports, and that we don't necessarily need to hear from OPD.
Okay. What else did you think was like SIPR related? Is there anything specific?
Well, we'll go through and I'll see what we can identify the stuff that we would prefer to report or just more something in our work, our field of work that should be reported from CIPRA. So
and along that same task, Director, I think there's certain things that you all have visibility of, right? That comes to that you all come across, but there might be some other stuff that OPD does or discipline related stuff that you guys don't cover or don't know of, and that would be helpful for them to report on that stuff, so just kind of like parsing that out a bit. And then also, Commissioner, I think we could also, when it comes to some of the work that needs to happen on the outside, especially around the CMC and then finalizing the actual, look at the template, we could also use our own counsel to be able to do some work as well too. There's some associates that we're in communication with outside of just Katina, and additional people within GHS that may also help us with just administrative work and just producing some of these documents as well. So, and maybe be able to work with you offline on that.
Okay. All right. Any other thoughts from anyone? Ricardo, are you going to be able to look at this document at all between now and Thursday and like leave some comments on any thoughts on any of this stuff? You think?
Was this so you were gonna cover a lot of this information in your ad hoc report back, right? And just some of the things that we're discussing.
I'm not going to go through it line by line. I mean, I'm going to talk about it in general.
Just a point of reference, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But like I was hoping, at least like the policy in the budget section, like, just some input on like what you want to hear report outs on. I would think that for the policy review section, it would be helpful just to know all the different policies that the commission and the department have worked on together, and maybe list them and say, hey, they're going to report out on this month of the year, and then next month they're going to talk about this, or something to that effect. So we do the rolling review, like you stated. I thought that was good feedback. So, yeah. Or else it's just going to be, I really just need people's feedback, because or else it's just me trying to figure it out, and along with Director Lawson, and it's a lot of time to write all this stuff out and do like all this research for everyone to be like, well, I don't like this, much of it at all. Like I created this whole NSA table with all the tasks and all the subtasks, and just trying to get information, So just trying to make this, this part of our work easy to understand, easy to digest, so people could ask questions about stuff they're already doing, which would highlight the good work that they're already doing. Why not talk about some of that stuff? That was my intention here, but they didn't even have this on a spreadsheet like this. I went through and created this, and I thought this would be helpful for people in the NSA Ad Hoc also to see. And I also thought that maybe we, I don't know, if we want to cut down on some of the NSA stuff that's in the template, maybe once a month have a discussion about certain NSA tasks. And we could put that information in here and also put it on our webpage to update the community. So that's the other thing I wanted to point out is this Excel spreadsheet that I created that literally talks about every task, every subtask of every task. And that's not to create more information or more work for them to do. That's just to get the information when they can give it to us and make sure that it's accurate and up to date. So that's where some of this information that talks about, their NSA tasks, that was like what I was going to propose where we could discuss it. Because you're saying that some of the stuff could go into someone else's report out. Well, we could also have some sort of NSA report out and talk about that stuff there. Any thoughts on that? And then we'll end the meeting.
No.
No? Okay. Is that helpful to see the NSA and as a spreadsheet like that with all the subtasks? Did you guys see that?
Yeah, I definitely want that.
Okay. For Carl, I see you nodding your head. That's helpful? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, y'all. Well, thank you for being here, and I'll see you Thursday night.
All right. Take care.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you. Good night.